Hello everyone and welcome to the video. In this video, I'm going to be going over the demo for the Immortal Mantis sequel. This video is going to be split up into 3 sections. First, I'm going to go over what happens in the demo and my thoughts on the demo as a whole. Then, I'm going to talk about how it relates to my previous theories and also a new theory I have. And at the end, I'll talk about some suggestions I have for the game. The demo is completely free, so if you want to check it out, I highly recommend doing that before watching this video. The link will be in the description. But let's get right into it. The game begins with a playable intro that goes over the story of the first game. There's not much to cover here since we already know most of this stuff, but there is a little bit of new stuff. Basically, we learn that Mantis's mother ends up ignoring him because she's so focused on pleasing the new family. We also learn that Mantis's stepdad is abusive to Mantis and just wants their money. This neglect and abuse is seen as the perfect opportunity for Dad to start manipulating Mantis, so Dad influences Mantis to kill his stepsister. The game then cuts to the police station, where Sergey is telling all this to somebody named Brian. Brian thinks he's crazy and doesn't believe him. We then print off a picture of a symbol that Mantis has been leaving at the crime scenes, and get a call about an attack and leave to head there. It then switches to Mantis's point of view in an unknown house. After exploring the house, Dad shows up and tells us that we need to lure somebody out. He makes sure to emphasize that they need her, so keep this in mind because I'm going to bring this up later. After Dad disappears, we solve a puzzle to turn the lights off. The woman then comes out to turn the lights back on, and we stab her through the heart. And that's it. Now I'll discuss my thoughts. First of all, the game looks so good. The new character designs are amazing. Just looking at Mantis in the first game versus the second game is a huge improvement. The overall environment looks better too. And out of all the characters, Dad has definitely had the biggest improvement. He went from a small black blob to a huge creature twice the size of Mantis. There was only one puzzle, but it was very fun and was a big improvement over the paintings puzzle in the last game. And even the menu's way cooler. So here's a quick comparison between the menu in the first game and the second. I can see a lot of improvement and I'm very impressed. Now there are a few quick details that I want to mention before I get into my theories. First, BitLife Studios said that it will take at least 6 more months to finish the game. Second, there's planned to be 2 to 3 endings. Third, later in the game, BitLife wants to focus on mechanics other than puzzles. And finally, in the police station, the door is open, but it redirects you if you try to leave, which means we'll probably get to explore more of the station later. Now it's time to talk about my theories. I'll start off by talking about what applies to my previous theories. The demo confirms my theory that Mantis was a child when he met Dad, because the intro says, "The necessary trust was built from Fuyuki's childhood." The intro also confirms my theory that Mantis killed himself with the dagger rather than just hurting himself. The intro says that in order to do the ritual, you have to hurt yourself mortally and intentionally with the dagger. My final old theory to talk about is my theory that Dad is a soul rather than a demon. This isn't confirmed, but when Brian calls Dad a demon, Sergey says, "Didn't say it was a demon. I don't know what that thing is." This means Dad isn't necessarily a demon, so it's still possible it could be a soul. I also have a new theory based on this demo. On my second time playing through the demo, I paid more attention to the fact that Dad says they need that woman. This would seem to imply that she has something they need her to do or give them, but then Mantis kills her, which means they probably either need to kill her or they need her body for something, but they probably don't need to kill her specifically. This then made me wonder why killing people would be so important. I also noticed another interesting detail. When Mantis goes to kill the woman with the dagger, it has particles around it and a sound effect as if it's charging up or something, which got me thinking. We know that Dad is connected to the dagger, because the dagger is used to make the pact with Dad, the barrier of light around the dagger traps Dad, and so this knife is very clearly connected to Dad. So what if every time someone is killed with a dagger, it makes Dad stronger? This would explain why there's such a big difference between how Dad looks in the first game and the second. Obviously, part of the reason is because of the upgraded character designs, but it's a big change going from a small blob to a creature like this. And the thing that really convinced me of this is in the intro. When we see Mantis stabbing his stepsister, Dad shows up multiple times. And what happens the last time he shows up? He's bigger. If you look at a side-by-side comparison, you can see that Dad has clearly grown in size. And all of this evidence leads me to believe that Dad grows bigger and more powerful every time someone's killed. I also have an idea for some possibilities for the 2 to 3 endings. There could be an ending where we get killed by Mantis, there could be an ending where we kill Mantis, and maybe there could even be a third ending where we manage to kill Dad or trap him again and we save Mantis. It's also interesting to note that Sergei has seen Dad, which means he's not just visible to Mantis, but it's not very important. And finally, it's time for my suggestions. My first suggestion is that there's an option to skip the intro in case people have already played the first game or are replaying the second game. I also think that every time something pops up on screen, there should be something in the bottom corner telling you to press C to exit, because I was pretty confused at first about how to exit. The rest of my suggestions are all translation related, so I'm going to put the original translation on one side and my suggestion on the other and explain my reasoning. In the intro, it says, "It just need to hurt yourself mortally and intentionally with the dagger." I think it should be, "You just need to hurt yourself mortally and intentionally with the dagger," because "it just need to hurt yourself" doesn't really make sense. When it says, "All that left for the boy was his mother's love, Akimi," it should say, "All that was left for the boy," and I think it should be slightly changed to, "All that was left for the boy was the love of his mother, Akimi," to make it more clear that Akimi is the name of his mother. I also tried looking up how to pronounce that name, but I got multiple different answers, so I'm just going to go with Akimi for now. When it says, "But in a short time, her mother married a lawyer who helped her in questions about the inheritance left by the husband," I think it should say, "But in a short time, her mother married a lawyer who helped her with questions about the inheritance left by her husband." When it says, "His mother was so focused on pleasing the new family that she ended up leaving her son," I think neglecting would be a better word than leaving, because leaving makes it sound like she, literally physically left him somewhere else and went off without him. When it says, "This was the perfect scenario for the entity to be close to the boy," this one depends on what you mean. If you mean that this is the first time Dad interacts with Fuyuki, then I think perfect scenario for the entity to approach the boy would work better, to make it clear that it's the first time. However, if you mean Dad has already interacted with Fuyuki before this and wants to get closer, then I think perfect scenario for the entity to get closer to the boy would work better, to make it clear that this isn't the first time. When it says, "More and more Fuyuki began to trust the creature to the point where he started calling him father," this is more of a continuity thing, but in every other situation that mentions Dad, you always use it. But here, you call Dad him. When it says, "And Sergei, his half-brother, grow up with the idea of becoming a policeman because he watched the unjust death of his sister," I think it should say, "And Sergei, his stepbrother, grew up with the idea of becoming a policeman because he watched the unjust murder of his sister." Which is because he's his stepbrother, not his half-brother. Grew up is the grammatically correct version, and murder just seems like a more fitting word than death. Finally, when you try to interact with one of the doors in the house, Mantis says, "I can't leave without first." But the sentence doesn't really make sense, so I think it should be, "I can't leave yet." But that's all my suggestions for now. If you want future help with checking translations in the future, feel free to let me know. But that's about it. I think the demo's really good, and I'm very excited for the full game. Thank you to everyone for watching. Check out the demo linked in the description. I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.